Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
Well, here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Hey, good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. We are right in the middle of summer and Saints training camp is 1 month away. It's right around the corner. Hey, guess what? This show's going to be great. We have future star, the quarterback for Tulane this year, Jonathan Banks, is going to be on. We also have a former star, a legend at LSU, Lyman White, is going to join us. He was All-SEC 3 times in his career at defensive line and linebacker. And also we're going to talk to Kyle France about all the great events that come to New Orleans. That's coming up next on Primetime Sports. Welcome back to Primetime Sports, and I hope your summer's going great. 4th of July weekend is coming up next week, but we're still going to have a show right here. It's going to be July 3rd, and it's going to be a live show too, so make sure if you stay in town or even on the Gulf Coast of Florida, I want you to know you can still watch it, not on WLAE over there, but you can still catch it on CST, so look it up if you want to be on vacation and still want to see the show. Hey, you know what, this week, this upcoming football season, it's going to be no vacation for the visiting teams because Tulane is ready. This is Willie Fritz's 3rd year. They were so close in so many games. If you look at it, I know you can't win every close game, but if they won a few more of these, let's say half of them, this team would have had like 8 wins, 8-4. They were this close. We all know what happened at the SMU game. Everybody that follows football certainly knows that they got robbed of that one. They would have been 6-6 in a bowl. So now they're coming back hungrier than ever. And I know they're going to be fighting hard. The schedule is not easy. It starts with Wake Forest, who had a really good season last year. That's a Thursday night game opening up the season. So that would be great to fill Lyman Stadium if they can get that going. But, hey, my guest here is the quarterback. His name is Jonathan Banks. And last year was his first year here via Kansas State, via Independence Community College. You did a JUCO before that, and you're from Houston, Texas. Well, how did you get to Tulane? First of all, welcome to the show.
Right. Thank you.
And how did you get to Tulane? What made you decide on coming uptown New Orleans?
I just felt it was a good fit for me, being close to home from, originally from Houston, Texas. So there's nothing like being, close to your house. And, this is a good conference playing in the American Conference. And I'm not all into hype anymore. I've been at the big stage. So, Coach Fritz was a good guy. He did a good job of recruiting me. So I'm just, looking forward to.
Well, I've done many games on the fall weekends. I do games, kind of west of the Mississippi, some Big Ten, and a lot of Pac-12, but a lot of Big 12. You were at Kansas State,
right?
Manhattan, Kansas, not quite New Orleans, Louisiana. What was it like being a student in a smaller college town?
Yeah, it's much different. You know, like you said, it's a much smaller town. And, you know, New Orleans is a much bigger city. So in Manhattan, it was just you and the players. You know, it was nothing more, nothing less. You know, it was nothing but football in Manhattan, Kansas.
That's it.
Yeah.
And was Bill Snyder there when you were there?
Yeah, he's still there.
Because he was a legend, and then he
Right.
left for a few years.
Right.
And then he came back, and I know he's getting up in age. Hey, by the way, your coach, Willie Fritz, obviously that was an attraction to come. He is a run-pass guy.
Right.
And the year he got here, Tulane was a lot more run. But your first year, and you missed a couple games with injury. You missed Navy. You missed Oklahoma. But you still racked up 2,400 yards. You had 1,800 through the air, 12 touchdowns. You had 600 more on the ground. That's 7 more touchdowns. A very successful first year, considering you also missed a couple games. Lost it. Your record is 5-5. You had an even record. They were 0-2 in those games. But what's it like playing for Coach Fritz and the Tulane Green Wave?
Coach Fritz, you know, he's a JUCO guy. You know, he's been that route, and I've been that route. So we well connected. He actually coached a quarterback named Michael Bishop before I came.
I know Michael well.
And, you know, Michael Bishop trains me sometimes. So, you know, Coach Fritz, he's a good guy. He pushes us, you know, to be great at all times. He's a player's coach. So, you know, he comes to practice with a lot of energy. So when you got a coach like that, you know, it's always.
I had no idea you were connected to Michael Bishop.
Yeah,
I was worked his probably biggest game of his stage of his career, Fiesta Bowl, Kansas State versus Syracuse back in the day, and it was on New Year's Eve. And I remember kicking in my New Year's Eve right after that game somewhere out west, because that's Arizona, Tempe, Arizona. But yeah, I mean, you obviously had some good tutelage. But when you came out of Houston, what kind of quarterback were you and compared to where you are now as far as the style of play and then your progression development?
Yeah, a lot of people didn't know. When I came out of high school, I was considered, you know, a pro-style quarterback. I rarely ran. You know, just me getting older and me going into different offenses, you know, I may need to go get the first down on 3rd and 9, you know.
That's you at Nimitz High right there, right?
Nah, that's me at Independence,
that's
actually.
Independence right there. That's Independence. That's right.
Yeah, so, you know, I changed my format, you know, my game plan style. But, you know, I'm able to adapt to, you know, offenses just by learning them.
So you've been, now that I think about it, you were in Independence. You were obviously Contra Costa. What's that?
Contra Costa.
Yeah. That's out west, right?
Yeah.
And then you obviously Manhattan, Kansas, and now New Orleans. Very distinct places, very different. What's New Orleans like as far as a city to live in for you compared to like being in these other more college type of areas?
New Orleans, you know, it's a good city. You know, I would say it's a party city in my opinion. You know,
you're not the only one to say it.
A lot of festivals and a lot of events going on.
A lot of festivals is a good thing. Most of them are free too.
Yeah. So you know, like I said, it's a bunch of seafood, something that I'm not used to. So
do you eat seafood? I'm curious.
I eat some of it. I adapted.
Are you slowly getting there?
I'm slowly getting there. Not big on seafood, but
not big at all.
You're
Texas steaks.
Yeah.
You big on the meat and potatoes?
Yeah, meat and potatoes for sure.
Have you grown physically a lot since high school? Where you stand right now, height and weight?
I'm like 6'3", 235.
Wow, that's strong.
Yeah.
Ideal for, obviously, you get hit a lot because you're making decisions on whether you're going to run, you're going to toss, you're going to do option, you're going to do whatever.
Right.
And obviously you're standing in the pocket as a quarterback. For 10 games played, that's pretty good numbers. I mean, think about it, 1,800 yards and 12 touchdowns.
Right.
And that's only going to improve in the system, but you're going to get hit a good bit. And you've been hit in the past. And you've now got the body to absorb. Yeah, I got you a couple shots getting you. You feel that one, huh? All right. There you are trying to escape it, but he's laughing over here. But, what have you done to help that in the sense that to absorb some of these hits you take?
Yeah, just watching film times.
You like that one?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, just watching films, you know, times that I not needed to run and times that I needed to run. Maybe getting down more. You know, just working with my coach on situations and scenarios. Like I said, that I need to stand in the pocket and throw it, and that I don't need to run and needing to get down before a defender gets to hit me. So I'm definitely going to take less shots this year.
You had a luxury of having some experienced backs when you came in last year. Dontrell Hilliard being one, of course. Sherman Beatty these guys seem to be around a long time. What do you have in the backfield to help you out this year?
We have like a 4-way rotation going on. We got Darius Bradwell, Stephon Hudson, Corey Dolphin.
Yeah, is Dolphin the one from Texas?
Yeah,
Texas Tech?
Mm-hmm.
He's a beat. They're all good.
Yeah,
I had Willie on the show a few months ago, and I did my research on those guys.
Right.
But what kind of styles do they have?
They all come with different styles.
Right.
You know, we got more of a power. We got speed. We got catching out the backfield. So it's gonna be an exciting year in the backfield for us this season.
And I don't have any shots of Terrence Unkeled, but this guy can play. And he's a guy I think you're going to see on Sundays. He's got that kind of athletic ability. And I know you love to surprise him with the deep ball.
Right.
Talk about that combination that you two have together.
Yeah, Terrence, he's a good guy. When I think of Terrence, the first thing I think of when I first got here, you know, he called me on the phone and he was like, let's get to work. So, you know, the first day I arrived on Tulane campus, and ever since then, you know, we spent extra time in the film room, extra time on the field after practice, and we just work on chemistry, you know. Just, you know, I'm knowing what he's going to be.
Just like Drew Brees does with his receivers.
Right.
I mean, you know, that's the main thing. Knowing what each other's thinking.
Right.
Without that, you're not successful. How excited, I mean, I could see it in your face when you start talking about your teammates and your offense. I mean, honestly, kind of express to us how excited you are about going to the season. Because, listen, Tulane, when Fritz got here, they had a ways to work up, and they've done it. In the 2 years, they've added 2 more wins from the first year to the second year. Right. Now people are expecting a little something. How excited are you, and what do you think that's going to provide this season?
I'm very excited, honestly. You know, like you said, we had 2 more wins than the season before. We all feel that we should have way much more wins. Like you said, we fell short so many games,
so close,
so many injuries. Close. You know, a lot of people play injured, but that's a part of college football. So, like I said, we just ready to prove people wrong this season. We working hard every day, you know, working harder. We're more hungry than ever, so we plan to shock a lot of people come August 30th.
I really believe you are. I really do. And this stadium, it's unique because the one I went to, they played in the Dome, and I went to some games. But before that, the Tulane Stadium it used to pack it sometimes. In fact, the LSU-Tulane game, when I was like 8, had 84,000 people in an 80,000 stadium. So when you win here, they will come. Right. And now this stadium, I love it. It's intimate, it's unique, it's compact, and when I've been to a couple of games early on when it was really full, and I'm telling you, this could be a magical place when they start winning some games. Right. And what are your thoughts about playing at Lyman, though? Because it's probably a little smaller than some that you've been to, but when it gets going, it's really a cool place to be.
Yeah, we want to be able to just get everybody out. We know we got to win games to get fans out. Bring the kids out. We want to, like I said, we're going to surprise a lot of people and just have the whole city come out and watch us have a good season this season.
What games stick out to you last year that you played? I know you had, I have that shirt right there. In fact, Willie brought me that last time. I'll wear that proudly. I love it. What are some of the games that stand out in your first year that you're like, man, that was a great memory. I really enjoyed playing that one.
Yeah, University of Houston, that's a big-time game. Army. You know, we came up close last minute in the drive. SMU.
Well, Army, that's Army right there, right? Yeah. Didn't you get the win in that game?
Yeah, yes, I
mean,
did.
You had to get 2 4th-down conversions at least on that last drive, and I think this might have been when you scored it.
Right.
You took it in with seconds left in the game. That has to be memorable because, listen, just to convert on 4th down is great. To do it on a drive that you're going to lose if you don't make the play, that is pressure, and you did it more than one time, and you scored. I mean, go through that progression that you went through.
You know, my line, they did a good job of, just giving me time in the pocket. I was able to hit Jabril Cluis on the inside slant pattern for the first 4th down conversion. I talked to the guys, and I told them that, we needed to be able to step up and make plays. All game, Army, they were stalling the clock. So we got very few possessions just to be able to, go on offense and move the ball down the field. We came victorious last drive, on the scramble, me scrambling the ball in the end zone.
Well, it was a remarkable play, and people are talking about that drive still, and I know they can't wait for you to come back. You're fully healthy, right?
Right.
I know you missed a couple of games. You had some impressive stats, but more importantly, people care about watching a team that cares and is hungry, and I know you guys are. Right. Jonathan Banks, do not forget this name. Jonathan Banks, I will remind you throughout this show, get on out there, go to that first game.
Right.
Check out Lyman Stadium at night. It's a Thursday night game. It's going to be a blast. Here's a little thing right on campus. You can go eat, and it's right there on Maple Street.
Okay.
So you can check that out. It's on Maple between Carrollton and Broadway.
No doubt.
And that is Task Performance, so you can work out and that and do whatever. You'll love it. Jonathan Banks, you're a fine young man. I can't thank you enough. We're going to sign this helmet. This is a tradition we have. There's a ton of great names on this. Terrence Jones is a player that's kind of like yourself, a great quarterback for the Green Wave, and I have a bunch of them. Rodney Holman was an all-pro in the NFL. So let's put your name along with these, and several other great ones are on there. Tulane's got a wonderful tradition. I grew up right down the street and I loved it. So got to thank you. Got to thank Willie Fritz for allowing him to come. Tom Simons, the sports information director, and everybody else. Hey, we're having a great show for you here. We got Lyman White. I said it earlier. This is the current and the future. Lyman White was the past, and he's certainly one of the greatest players in LSU history. Second-round draft pick with the Atlanta Falcons back in the day. But he's coming up next. And also, we're going to talk to the guy who brings all the events down here, the Super Bowl, the Final Four, and, of course, the national championship in football, which my man here hopes he can get to one day this year. Hey, Tulane was 12-0 in 98. Why not do it in 2018? We'll be right back on Primetime Sports.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll at Mid-City Lanes, the home of rock and roll.
Welcome back to Primetime Sports, and Tulane fans, you just saw your future right there. Certainly for this upcoming season, Jonathan Banks is a dynamite quarterback. Wait till you watch him on the field, and I can't wait for the opening of Tulane's season. And guess who else starts around that same time? Well, the LSU Tigers. And back in my day, when I was in high school, there was a beast playing for the LSU Tigers, and I mean that in the very best sense, because he was one of the best defensive linemen to ever wear the purple and gold. His name, if you're an LSU fan, certainly if you're over 40-something, you know the name Lyman White. And he was a great defensive lineman. He was there from 77 to 1980. They beat Alabama that 1980 season. I will never forget that great win. But he went on to be a second-round pick with the Atlanta Falcons. And I got to give my brother a little plug here because he helped facilitate this deal. They do some stuff in the ministry together. Whitney, thank you very much. But here he is, Lyman White, former LSU Tiger. And I like to bring on some of the legends, and I've certainly put you in that category, my friend.
Thank you very much, Scotty. Hey, we appreciate you.
I know you're humble. I know you're humble, but when I say this, Pete Jenkins is another one who's coached many of the great defensive linemen in LSU history. And I remember when I had Tommy Clapp on, and I was asking him, give me some of the best linemen that you coach, linemen. And by the way, you're definitely one of the best linemen on LSU history. You might even be number one. You're probably the only one. I mean lineman. The name. That's the name.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay.
Right. But the fact is Pete Jenkins said, man, you got to start with Lyman White. I mean, when you hear that, he coached that entire group in the 80s. Leonard Marshall was a first-round pick with the New York Giants, and that's when they had LT and all those when they were winning Super Bowl. Back in the day, and they've had all these great ones he's coached recently, but he said you were the guy.
Well, mainly because I was a senior his first year coaching at LSU, and Hokie Guyzon and I was Stovall first.
Yeah, Jerry Stovall, right.
Yeah, so we came there, when they came there was our senior year, so we was their team captain, Hokie and I.
Well, let's go there, because you had Jerry Stovall for a year, who was the coach when I went to LSU a few years later. But you had Charles McClendon, Charles McClendon, whatever you want to call him. I know that some people affectionately, or sometimes maybe not so affectionately, just said Charlie Mack. That's obviously a younger photo of Charlie Mack, but you had him his last 3 years. What was he like as a coach?
He was pretty stern, straightforward. He did a good job of giving a more cohesive team, because that time it was in the mid-'70s, but there was a lot of still racial tension going on.
Yeah.
So there was a lot to overcome and work with and work through, and he did. And he brought a lot of guys in. Like my freshman year, we brought in people like Chris Williams, Tracy Porter, Hokie guys on, Jude Hernandez, Benji Thibodeau, Georgia Tia, and all those guys had to learn how to work together, play together, became great teammates and friends.
So yeah, talk about that, because you came in. I know there was a track athlete, Collis Temple Jr. always loves to make sure people know that he was not the actual first African American athlete. He gets said that a lot. There was a track star or a track athlete before him, but he certainly was a basketball player. He certainly was the highest known guy, because track didn't get as much publicity as, say, football or basketball. But you weren't that far behind. I mean, he came in 71, I believe, and you came in literally 6 years later. So kind of describe what it was like as far as that goes with the racial intensity, the tension going on back in the mid to late 70s.
In playing sports, you didn't get involved with the racism, but it did exist.
Right.
A lot of comments would be made, because we had to go to class, and you realize that the teachers was not even used to having African American students.
So you saw that. I mean, that's interesting, because I guess I'm a little bit of a generation later. I was 6 years after you, and I guess I wouldn't have noticed as much. But yeah, you could feel it.
Oh yeah, because they had the free speech alley. When you would start hearing about, you go to the free speech alley, the David Dukes was still coming to speak at our campus.
Really?
So it was a lot to overcome. But the football coach had to focus on, bringing a cohesive team together and playing as a unit. And Coach Charlie Mack did a great job of balancing that out.
So I know you played linebacker, you played defensive line. They moved you around. But Charlie Mack, do you think they used you properly at LSU as a player? I mean, I'm just being honest right now.
There was one issue I always had. They called me a defensive end.
Right.
Well, and to me, a defensive end was a guy 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 270, right? And
yeah.
I was 6'1", 230 and 235. But they put me in a down lineman position to rush the passes sometimes. I appreciated that more when I got to the NFL, because it taught me to be a better rusher. But I enjoyed playing more of a stand-up.
Stand up,
yeah, right. Because I can see what's going on. I can react to what was going on. When you're in your three-point stand,
that's a great point.
You can't really see. You're moving. By the time you look up, then you can see what's going on.
I grew up next to Tulane Stadium, so I was a Tulane fan. And then I went to a game when LSU blew out Rice. It was 77-0. Mm-hmm. And Carlos Carson had 6 touchdown catches. But my second game at LSU was one of the wildest things I've ever seen, even to this day. USC comes into, that's when they had Charles White, the great running back, the Heisman Trophy winner.
Had Marcus Allen, too?
Marcus Allen was his other running back. And listen, they were undefeated. They were #1 in the country. And I remember Charles White running around the stadium holding up that #1 sign. But LSU had their number that day. They didn't end up winning the game. They had a very controversial play. They were on the goal line to beat USC, and they called an offensive face mask on Benji Thibodeau. And I'll never forget, because where I was, my brother, who was the manager of the team, so he had me situated on the field for a while, and then I think they kicked me out at halftime. So I went up in the student section, and I'm 13, okay? So that's not where you wanted a 13-year-old to be, but I was, and it was an eye-opener. But I just remember I was right on that goal line level, so I could see everything going on that side of the field. And it was the most intense, by far intense experience in football I've ever seen. The stadium was rocking. You could smell bourbon wafting through the air, and as a 13-year-old from New Orleans, I at least knew what that smell was. I'm like, these people in here are drunk. But they were rowdy, and it was just, do you remember the palpability and the tangibility of playing in that game? Because you could feel it in the air, even way up in the stands.
Oh, it was magnifying to be in there. The intensity, the players could not hear one another. It was so loud.
It was unbelievable
in the stadium. So what we had to do about the first quarter, it took us about a quarter to realize that we had to shut all this noise out and listen, because on defense, offense, you're making calls. You're making plays, you're calling plays, you're calling defense. So we had to make those adjustments. After about the first quarter, we shut all that out. We didn't know, we couldn't hear anything but what these players were saying. Now, credit to Charles White, he still had almost 200 yards that game because he couldn't contain him. He had such great speed. He was able to get outside, but we played our best game ever.
It was phenomenal, and then USC was, I'm not going to say unbeatable, but they were the best team in the country.
Oh, they were.
And they went down to Baton Rouge. I remember, I believe it was John Robinson was the coach, because it used to be McKay, but Robinson took over, and he was like, he had never seen anything like it. He was like, he said Daniel being thrown to the Wolves, to the Lions, and it was that crazy. But the final score was 17-12. I'll never get it. If they had gotten in the end zone, which everybody expected to, because it was first down right there, and goal from right there.
Minute 17 seconds left or something.
Yeah,
like
they were
that.
ready just to knock it in and win, and it got taken away from them. That's the most memorable game for you say, and it was a loss. But how about a win? And one comes to my mind, but I wasn't on the field. I never played for LSU. For you as a player during your time, does any game stand out besides the USC one, and particularly a win?
I would have to say, because it was my second year at LSU, I was being a sophomore, and I'm starting they call it defensive end. To this day, I still say outside linebacker.
Right, and so does that card right there.
Yeah, and it was 4 down. It was 4 down, and Colorado was driving to score. And for whatever reason, they ran the ball towards my way, and the quarterback was holding on to the ball because the pitch man was out. And he ran right at me, and he shuffled. Then he decided to pitch the ball. For whatever reason, my reflex swung at the ball. And the ball, I ended up knocking the ball about 20 yards back.
Oh, my.
And my homeboy, Clinton Barrea, who we played together, recovered the fumble. So that was like a big game.
So you knocked it, he recovered, game over, you win?
And that became more of my MO back then. So, causing fumbles, knocking the ball down, running people down. So it helped me to get to
you had instinct, and you were opportunistic. I mean, that's what that is, because you know where the ball is going. Hey, by the way, if you saw that card, how about this? 77, all rookie team, basically all freshman team, but they call it rookie. Second year, 78, second team all SEC. 79, first team all SEC. And 1980, first team all SEC. When I read those accomplishments, because the Southeastern Conference was just as good back then, even though the young kids probably don't know it, than it is now. And that had to be something that you have to hold near and dear to your heart, that your peers, your coaches, the writers that followed you considered you to be the best of the best in that group in the Southeastern Conference.
And to this day, I'm honored by it, but I don't keep up with the stats. So I never really kept up with all that. And to being able to, like I say, I was an outside linebacker that had a little speed. So by me playing that position and a three-point stand, it gave me the opportunity to come off the ball and really take out running. I would run the guys down from the other side. That's how I ended up getting hurt my senior year against Alabama.
Was that the game in Tuscaloosa?
Yes.
And the game LSU won?
No, we lost that.
You lost that one.
We was on the way to winning the game.
Oh.
They called a return back by Chris Williams, an interception back, and next thing you know, we fell behind. But the first quarter of the game, every play from the first to the beginning of the second quarter, every play they ran my way. And I couldn't figure out why they keep running this ball. Every play, they ran my way. And I ended up getting hurt. That was the first time I ever gotten hurt. Never missed a game.
So they were going for you.
They was going.
They were trying to knock him out.
So they took me out of the game because I could not play.
So
at the end of the game, Bear Bryant called me to where he was standing by the goalpost. He shook my hand, reached his hand out. He said, "Young man, you're one of the best players I ever played against. You're gonna have a wonderful career." He said, "I enjoyed you." He said, "I apologize that we kept running the ball your way, but we realized the last 3 years we ran away from you, and it didn't help because you kept running people down. So we decided we was going to run at you, not knowing that you was going to get hurt."
We're going to wear you down
so
and maybe knock you out of the game.
That was his strategy.
All right, so Alabama, was that when? Was it 79 or 81 when they had the big?
81.
81 after you left.
Yeah,
and that was a huge one there, but after you left. So they had a stretch kind of like they have now where they beat LSU a bunch in a row. Then literally from 81, though, till when Saban got there, LSU had their number for most. I mean, Alabama would win a lot of the games at LSU. LSU would win the games at Bama. But during your stretch, Bear Bryant dominated the SEC.
Oh, just like Nick Saban doing that.
Just like it now.
Totally
that was that era because they were in the Sugar Bowl here every year.
Total domination.
And there's your boy Bear, always with the hounds to that. That's great. Speaking of Stovall, you talked a little bit about Charlie Mack. Now we got to talk about Stovall. What was Stovall like as a coach?
Well, Stovall had to come in from when Charlie Mack left.
Yeah.
Really, Bo Ryan came in.
And he died in the plane crash.
And Bo Ryan, they called us for a meeting right before. We met back at LSU to have this meeting, and because Bo Ryan's supposed to come meet the team for the first time. But we sitting there for the meeting. Nobody, they said, well, give us another hour. He'll be here. Like an hour later, came back saying, well, look, they can't locate the plane. And
oh, my.
So we never had a chance to meet him.
So for those of you who don't know, Bo Ryan was this hot young coach, coached at NC State. Mm-hmm. Charlie Mack had been there forever. He's got a great record at LSU, but it was time for him to move on. I mean, he'd been there a long time. So they brought this young, fresh football mind in, and everybody he was like the next, I'm not going to say anybody's as successful as Saban, but everybody around the country knew he was the hot young coach, and LSU got him. He took a plane ride for a recruitment trip, and he ended up getting into the Bermuda Triangle or whatever.
That's what they said.
Off the coast of the Atlantic. I mean, it was crazy, and never even got near Baton Rouge, so he passed away, and then is that pretty accurate? I'm just doing this off memory.
Well, nobody knows what happened.
Right. They never found the plane.
He didn't show up for the meeting. To this day, they haven't found the plane. They haven't located, and so no one knows what happened.
Maybe he took the contract. He's kicking his feet up in Tahiti, just chilling still.
But right after that, the players came together.
Right.
And we decided, we don't want to go with another coach. We got Stovall being here. We know he's capable of doing the job. So the players fought to have Stovall be the next head coach at LSU.
Well, that's kind of when Arnsparger left. They did the same thing with Mike Archer and Tommy Hodson, and then went up to the room, I guess, of the AD. I'm not sure. It might have been Broadhurst at the time, and said, we want to have Mike Archer. And like Jerry, he had a year or two good, and then it didn't go so well. But the fact is here, your LSU career was great, but then you got to play with the Atlanta. By the way, before I go Falcons, there's a couple guys. I love Charles Alexander. We had him on our show. Phenomenal player. I mean, obviously he was in the top 3 in Heisman Trophy, and he was one of the greatest at running backs in a big group of great running backs at LSU. And I've had him. But Steve Ensminger, I want your opinion because he is now the offensive coordinator at LSU.
They're going to do a wonderful job.
I love him. And listen, I'm all about Steve, and I was been for him. And Steve, I can't wait for Steve to come on this show because he's the first quarterback, him and David Woodley, who shared time. Right. And Woodley ended up taking the Dolphins to the Super Bowl. Not winning, but they did. So these two guys were splitting time. What are your thoughts when you mentioned Steve Ensminger? Because a lot of fans are up and down on whether he should be the offensive coordinator. I'm one of the guys that believes he should. He averaged, when Coach O took over the rest of that season, they were averaging 475 yards a game, 34 points a game. And I thought he did great. And then they hired another offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, last year. But what are your thoughts when you think of Steve?
Well, Steve loved the game. He's been in the game a long time. He did a wonderful job when they had him at the position, and he's going to do a great job this year. So I really respect Steve. Every time I see a picture of him, he reminds me of Coach Charlie McClendon. I don't know why.
Steve now, or the recent ones?
Steve now
not
looks like
the butt cut right there.
Steve now looks like Charlie McClendon.
Oh, that's funny. There he is now. Yeah, he doesn't have that feathered Farrah Fawcett hairdo anymore. He's got this now. But Pete, you mentioned Pete Jenkins. I mean, he's kind of an old bull. Right now, he's coaching the OLDLs at a camp right now in I think Thibodeau or Houma. But he was at LSU, it seemed, forever. He'd leave for a couple years, always come back. But that's the Pete from the early days. And I got to say, some players said Pete was very tough on them. I don't know if you were one of those guys. You were a senior, and this was your first year when he showed up, his first year. But what was he like?
Well, Coach Pete Jenkins he's just kind of like a Nick Saban. He's serious about what he does.
Serious.
Very, very serious. He take it to heart, and he gonna give you his all because he expect for you to give him your all, and that's what he did. That's why he was able to produce people like Leonard Marshall, Ramsey Dardar. He took those guys and built them up.
And even like Marcus Spears later, and Chad Lavallee.
It never ends.
And go on and on. I mean, you've had some great ones over the years. Now, moving forward, I got to ask you about what you're doing now because I know there's a great organization with PASS is the name of it, Professional Athletes Supporting Students. I think it's wonderful. A guy that I went to LSU with who played in the NFL for a while, Brian Kenshin, is part of it. You mentioned Ramsey Dardar. Tell people what this group's about. The website, by the way, is passtheballnow.org. But what do they do?
Well, past, our president is Mr. Eddie Fuller, former LSU, former
the greatest player in all time.
Yeah, best run, Mr. Earthquake, we call it.
Mr. Earthquake.
Ms. Sharon Lewis, who does recruiting at LSU now, is over recruiting at LSU. She's our vice president, and Brian Kitchen is our secretary. But PASS is a compass that helps students to navigate through school by teaching them respect, self-discipline, and teamwork through sports.
So important.
To hope that one day they can graduate.
Yeah, I mean, tell people, like, how can they get involved in it, in either taking their kids to a camp if they want to do that, or
No, what we do, we go directly into the schools, elementary, middle school, and high school, and we do a pass the ball piece. In other words, we go to the schools and we talk to the children about the thrill of victory, but more important, the agony of defeat. So we share our little story. Brian Kenton shares a story. Ramsdale, they'll share his story about how they got where they are and what it takes to get where you are. And the most important thing, even to get to where we've been, you got to be able to stay in school.
Yes.
So it's important of staying in school. So we like to say passes in the school that to encourage your child to stay in school.
Thank you so much for doing that. By the way, for those of you who don't know, if you're younger than 30, the Earthquake, Mr. Earthquake means he caught the pass in the 1988 Auburn game from Tommy Hodson. LSU could do nothing all day. They were just terrible. It was 6-0. It was 3-0 most of the game. And it's the only game to this day I sat in the upper deck. I came down at the last second from D.C., and I got a seat up there. And sure enough, it's the Earthquake game when it was shaking. And that upper deck was shaking like this. I'm like, get me out of here, because it registered on the Richter scale. Hey, by the way, I'd be remiss if I left this without talking about your son, who plays for ULM. He was a star running back over at Parkview Baptist. But, you know, we all love our children. You want nothing but the best for your children. Talk about what Kayan has done, you know, in football and in life.
Well, I have a beautiful daughter just graduated from high school, Woodlawn, named Samia. She just graduated. But my son, Kayan, he's into his junior year at ULM, but he's into his sophomore year of football because he was red shirt. Yeah. And then the best thing could have happened to him, although he didn't appreciate it back then, because it helped him to mature, helped him to grow up. So he's a wonderful, fine young man. He's handling his books first, and he's doing a great job on the field for Coach Viotar, who's a good man, who's a great coach over there. And my son is, he's really, his mom has done a great job of raising him too. So he's done a great job.
As you see, there's 3 LSU balls here. I had a 4th that I left on my car once, and it's off. But no, some of the great players were on that one. But this has got the full names on it. Last week we added our only basketball because I have a basketball too. But I said, you know what? I love Tasman Mitchell so much. I let him sign the football one. But Les Miles and some other great ones are on this. So I would be honored to have your name on here, Lyman White. This is what we do.
I'm honored to be a part of this. Yep. Thank you so much.
So I appreciate you. Even Miles Brennan, I'm looking there. Miles is smart. He's signing a really dark pen, even darker than the black. It's a thick black one. And he might be one of LSU star quarterbacks of the future. Here is, you see your signature? It's beautiful. Nice and clear. I'll never not know who that is. Some of these, I'm like, I know I had some awesome players here. But thank you, Lyman. Here's a gift certificate. Next time you come to New Orleans, it's uptown. It's right off Carrollton Avenue. So just Google it up and you'll find. Put it on your GPS and check it out.
And we're going to have to give you something from Paz. We got a nice little.
Do I get gifts too?
We got a nice little Paz shirt we're going to give to you.
I would love to advertise for this. Oh, wow, that's nice. I can play golf in this one.
We're going to take
care of this. Nice. Pass. I love it. Hey, get involved if you have any chance to. Great organization.
Yeah, like us on our Facebook page. Yeah. Just type in, you got to type in the whole thing, professionally supporting students, and like us and share us on Facebook. We appreciate it.
And here's a new thing. The owner of Task Performance, Al Andrews, started with us. We're giving our guests now these beautiful Task shirts. Feel that. Tell me how soft that is.
Oh, man, I can put my logo on here.
That is unbelievable. Yeah, put your logo on it. There you go. It's a good idea. Put your logo.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, you're going to love that. So enjoy it. That right there is Lyman White. Hey, remember we had Jonathan Banks earlier. That was awesome. Coming up next, you've always wondered, how does New Orleans get all these big events? The Super Bowl, the NCAA Final Four, the National Championship game. Well, I'm going to tell you one guy that knows very well because he's part of the organization that helps bring them in every year. His name is Kyle France. He's coming up next on Primetime Sports. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, you saw the current, which is the future, Jonathan Banks in that first segment. He's a star at Tulane and maybe even beyond. And you saw the past and one of my favorite all-time players, Lyman White, a great defensive lineman, outside linebacker at LSU. Right now we're going to talk about something completely different because, like I said, I've teased it a little bit earlier in the show, hey, you always wonder why New Orleans gets all these events. We know we're a great city. We know we have a lot to offer, but it's not that simple. You have to have a group that kind of puts proposals together, and when you have the NCAA Final Four right sandwiched in between the national championship football game, and then after that you have the Super Bowl, and then in a 4-year stretch in 2020, 2022, and 2024, and those years sound so weird to even say. They sound so futuristic, but they really are right around the corner. We're almost in the middle of 2018, so they're all coming here soon. Well, the best guy to talk about it right here is my man, Kyle France. He is the chairman of the Louisiana Stadium and Exposition District, and I got that right. I can't believe it. Kyle, welcome back to the show.
Great
man.
to be here, Scott.
Welcome to the show the first time. By the way, I remember the first time I met you, I was in 8th grade. You were a great basketball player at De La Salle, and you were playing with a guy who also has been on the show, Daryl Morrow, who was a legendary shooter, still has the record for most free throws made consecutively in any game. First of all, you were a good basketball player. Talk about your career there.
Oh, well, high school career was a lot of fun. I would not use the term great to describe my basketball playing, but I will say this, when Daryl still holds the record for the most amount of free throws, consecutive free throws over a course of a period of games, and when he missed, the one he missed,
Jesuit.
I rebounded.
You rebounded.
And I missed the layup.
You missed the layup?
So, yeah. So there goes to show you how great I was. But
well, you're just trying to make Daryl feel better.
Yeah.
By the way, that record still holds. And listen, anybody that can shoot has gone to their backyard and probably hit 100 in a row at some point. I mean, if you're a shooter, you shoot. But doing it in a game is just so unbelievable. I remember hitting like 20-something in a row, and that was like great. And people were like, I thought that was an accomplishment. 5 times more. No one on any level, NBA, college, or high school. But let's talk about what you're doing now, because you obviously, the last name's France. You've been the president and principal, I'm assuming, of Kehoe France forever. And that's a great school. It's been around for, what, 70-plus years?
Long time, Scott.
Long
yes,
time. It's
sure.
been a long time, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
But New Orleans, and you're ingrained in the fabric of New Orleans. You're obviously a local. You've stayed here. You've run the school, but you're also part of this great group, the LSED, and there's your professional look. That's your.
Oh, look at that.
There you go. That is straight on it. And there you are with the police officer.
Nice.
And actually, you're working with him. You're not being apprehended.
That's a nice thing.
All right. But talk about what this group does and what's the role that they do in getting all these great functions down to New Orleans.
Well, first off, I want to thank the governor for appointing me to this position. It's a governor. The governor appoints all of the commissioners. There's 7 of us. I'm the chair of the commission, and we come from all parts of the state. Former Governor Blanco happens to sit right next to me on the commission, which is a real honor and blessing to have her on the commission. But what this commission does do is it oversees the Dome, the arena, the TPC golf course, Baby Cake Stadium, Saints and Pelicans practice facility, Champion Square, Ilarios Center.
That's a lot of stuff, man.
There's a lot of stuff, and again, those venues bring a lot of economy to our area, so it's something that I think we could all be very proud of.
Very proud.
I'll tell you this, growing up in New Orleans, watching that Superdome being built, of course it opened in 1975, and as a young kid growing up watching it being built and sitting in this position today, I can't tell you just how honored I am to be in this position, to continue the legacy of the John McKithans, the Edwin Edwards, Bill Curl, who recently passed away, was a wonderful guy.
Yes, he was.
Doug Thornton's been involved at the Superdome for many, many years.
Very well-known guy here, very respected, and does a great job.
Right, and so I'm really honored to work with him and the rest of the team over there, as are the rest of the commissioners.
So do these commissioners and chairmen, did they get appointed every time there's a new governor?
Yes.
So John Bell Edwards is your guy.
Correct.
John Bell came last year. He brought Carl Malone, and they did a show together. And this year, in I think 3 weeks, could be wrong, I think it's 3 weeks, He's bringing Coach Ed Ogeron, and we're going to have some fun. John Bell is a treat. I really like the guy a lot. I don't care what your politics are. Take that out the window.
Right.
I hate discussing politics, but as a person and a guy that cares about his state, they really don't get much better than that.
No, and I've been in politics a long time, and I know you want to peel the political part off of it, but this guy is a very special human being. I always ask him, I said, Governor, how do you stay so, stable? And because he does. He's not up, he's not down. And he credits his incredible faith. And also his upbringing through the military, and he's just been wonderful. He called me out of the blue. I mean, this is not something that I asked about, wasn't campaigning about.
Right.
He called me out of the blue, asked me to come up to Baton Rouge to visit with him. I did, and at that time we were talking about various appointments, and he said, "Well, one of my most important one is the chairman of the Superdome Commission." I said, "It really is, Governor. You really got to put somebody good there." And he said, "Well, I think I have the right person." He said, "I'd love to appoint you to the commission." I looked behind me like somebody else in the room.
What an honor, though.
Yeah,
wow.
It really was. And
seriously. It's our main landmark. Let's be honest. I mean, there's Jackson Square, which is historic, but people know the Superdome. I mean, it's now been 43 years, I guess. People know this structure, and it is very important to us. And we know what happened to it in Katrina, and the decision whether to bring it back or not. And I'm glad they made that decision the way they did, because it looks beautiful right now.
It's an iconic facility. It's something that we want to make certain that we can upgrade and keep competitive for the next 30 to 40 years. And we're going through that process now, Scott, with a master plan, looking at ways and how we can do things, how we can pay for things in order to keep it competitive. To this day, of all the NFL venues, the New Orleans Superdome ranks in the top 5 of all the venues.
Wow.
Which is pretty good.
And it's been around. Hey, by the way, Tom Benson, before he passed away, added a lot to the Dome. His wife, Gail, who now is owning the Saints and Pelicans, has said she's going to put a lot more into it. Have you had any experiences with Gail? Because she is a delightful person to be around and really has the pulse of the New Orleans community and doing every decision it seems that she seems to make. And she's hitting all the right buttons right now as she's just new at this and really has just watched her husband, and that's it. She has no experience, and I think she's beloved by all.
Well, I've had a conversation with Gail about what we're looking at doing in the Superdome, but her team, the hierarchy at the Saints, Dennis and Mickey and the rest of those guys have been a part of this process. They've got a really good team there, and I've enjoyed working with them. And it takes a team effort. We need the Saints lease is up in 2025. We need to start looking at that, renegotiating that, keeping this team in New Orleans.
Right.
So that's all a part.
Is that would be the year that they could do what they want to do? I mean,
well, the lease is up in 2025. So we need to get something done.
Yes, because that's right on the corner. It seems so far away. 2025, right? We're only 6.5 years from being there. Yeah. But hey, now how does the Super Bowl get here? Because this is the original impetus for me to bring you on, because this is new news. The Saints lost out on the Super Bowl that was just in Minnesota, and that's when I first moved back. This happened in 2012 or 13 when they were trying to get to the one that was played. I think that would have been Super Bowl 52 in Minnesota. And we thought they had it. They put a great presentation on. The new stadium thing killed New Orleans, which it has been killing it for years, because everyone knows, just like in sports, the all-star games in baseball and basketball usually go to the team that's got the new arenas and stadiums. Well, the same goes for football with the biggest show they have, the Super Bowl. And places like Atlanta passed over New Orleans, Minnesota. And even though people have to go in 0-degree temperature, they went there because of the new stadium. How did you get this Super Bowl to New Orleans?
Well, it's well beyond the LSED. I mean, it's really a team effort of the New Orleans Sports Foundation, the group that manages the day-to-day operations of the Superdome and the rest of our venues. SMG played a critical role in that. The Tourist Commission, Mark Romig, and that. It's really a team effort. We, as the managers of the facilities, need to play a critical role as well, because there might be some things we need to do to our facilities to update them and upgrade them. The beauty of this award is that we got the Super Bowl with zero add-ons. They're not asking us to do anything different.
Right.
They love New Orleans. I think if you ask the NFL if they could pick one city in the NFL
to have it all the time,
they'd have it in New Orleans consistently.
I think the media would say the same thing.
Right.
If you had to pick just one, they all like Miami and they all like parts of California, but
right.
New Orleans is the one overall.
Well, all the hotel rooms that are in walking distance and so forth, our venue, the Dome. So it's really a big win for us and something we're proud of. That comes, as you said earlier, we've got the BCS in 20, we've got the Final Four in 22, Super Bowl in 24, and then filling in between all of that are an incredible amount of different
those are the
events,
greatest big events there are. I'm going to say this because when you get in baseball and basketball, well, you go to there's no big event. You go to the other team's best of 7. You play home and away. These are events that can get chosen, and those are the 3 biggest. The Super Bowl being the biggest.
Right.
I think the Final Four is right up there with the national championship game. It just depends on what sport you like.
Right.
But you've got all 3 coming in 4 years. This is a giant win for the Crescent City.
Yeah, and I think too many times we take it for granted. Here in New Orleans. And we really need to kind of take a step back and realize the type of player that we really are in the sports market now. I mean, New Orleans is a go-to place, and look at what happened with the NBA All-Star game.
No question.
We got that. So I think the ability to attract these types of games to New Orleans continues. Again, we need to be certain that our facilities can remain competitive, though, for the next 30 to 40 years.
And the Final Four is played in the Dome still, right? They have to have big domes now.
Right.
They had arenas for a bit, but I remember when they came in '87 and they played that in the Dome, and domes became every year because you could fit all the people in.
Right.
And I remember going to a few others. 2003 rings a bell when Syracuse beat Kansas. But this is the place for it. I love it being here. By the way, we mentioned a lot about the Dome, but this Smoothie King Center has been attractive too for a lot of things, and tell people why that is important for our commerce here.
Well, besides the Pelicans, obviously, but we've been able to attract an incredible array of star entertainment tomorrow night, Wednesday night.
Oh, the Eagles.
The Eagles will be here.
That's John Brady just said he's going.
Yeah, Billy Joel was here not too long ago. We have Elton John coming pretty soon.
Yes.
To be able to attract that kind of talent to your city is really neat. So the folks that had the foresight to build that arena when they did, where they built it, that close proximity to the Dome allows us, when we have the Final Four, we'll use that arena as a side venue as well.
No question. And they do Fan Fest stuff and that kind of thing. But hey, the SEC, I don't want to leave the ladies out. The SEC women's gymnastics is even before all
2019.
that. And that's in the Smoothie King Center,
That's
correct?
in the Smoothie King
2019, which is literally next fall. Next spring, I mean.
Next spring,
Next spring.
So
and LSU has done really well. They haven't got that national championship, but they finished second 2 or 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big event.
You're talking about the governor earlier. He called me last year. He said, "Kyle, I'm gonna have Dee Dee Bro call you, the coach of the LSU."
She was on this show this time last year. It might have even been this week.
Yeah.
End of June last year she was on.
But this is what kind of leader John Bell Edwards is. So he had her call me and said, "Look, Kyle, we really would like to take a look at having this tournament in New Orleans." And so I obviously pass it on to the folks at the SMG who negotiates these deals for us, and we're able to work out having the SEC women's gymnastics tournament here in New Orleans.
So if Governor Edwards gets reelected, does this mean you continues your term? I mean, through it, or does he have to do a reappointment?
If he so desires. We serve at his will. I mean, he can call me tomorrow and say, "Thank you for your service."
Well, he's been a tremendous fan of the show. He says he watches it a lot, and that's how he first got in touch. He's like, "I'd love to bring Karl Malone down." I'm like, "Oh, the second leading scorer in NBA history?
Right.
Let's do it."
Right, that's pretty cool.
By the way, cool. I'm glad you're honored because this is a position you should be honored to have, and it's wonderful. And I know the New Orleans thanks you, and thanks everybody that works with you. I mean, it's a team effort, as you said.
Thank you, Scott. And on a side note, I'm proud of you, too. This is a wonderful show. I hear a lot of great things about it. I watch it as well, and watching you kind of grow up through the years and get involved in sports has been really neat. So I'm really proud of you.
Well, thank you, brother.
Okay, man.
Yeah, man, we go back.
Good.
You're 4 years ahead of me, but
even,
I was way back, and I was a little pipsqueak in high school, and even in college, I saw you a good bit there in the first year.
Thank you.
That's task performance. I'm going to say this. I don't know if you've worn it. That's New Orleans' own, and it's phenomenal.
Great.
And listen, athletes around the world, Drew Brees wears it all the time. I love it. I mean, I started wearing it 6 years ago when I moved here. Somebody told me about it, and I put it on. I'm like, wow. I mean, that's all I wear.
Hooked you, huh?
It took me here.
Good.
Hey, since you were involved with all of it, you can sign anything, but you did go to LSU. But I'm going to put you on the Saints ball because the dome's big right here. This one, I have 3 others that are full, but this one has like Alvin Gentry and Archie Manning.
Wow.
Zach Strief.
Archie's
and you're the
the
4th
best,
one
huh?
on this. Archie's great, isn't he?
Yeah, I love him. He's on the Sugar Bowl committee with me. He's a great guy.
All right. Thank y'all so much. Hey, this has been a great show. Jonathan Banks, I can't wait for the season to start. He opened up the show. And then we also had, obviously, we just talked to Kyle France, and we had Lyman White. Hey, next week it's going to be 4th of July, but we're still doing our show. We're doing it on the 3rd, and we're going to continue to have the guests. I told you, the governor and Coach O are coming up soon. We're going to continue to have those kind of guests throughout the rest of the summer, and then football's around the corner, and we all are counting the days to the Saints' first game, LSU's first game, Tulane's first game, and everybody else that plays football in our region. It's coming up, and it's going to be here soon. So we'll be back next week right here on Primetime Sports.